Welcome to the CL Brown Show. I am your host, CL Brown, columnist with the Louisville Courier Journal. On this episode of the show, we're going to talk basketball with Pat Kelsey because we still have a lot of interviews from ACC tip-off that took place last week. But we also have the biggest game of the football season coming up. Louisville is traveling down to Miami, and for that, I have joining me Louisville Courier Journal beat writer Alexis Cubit. Alexis, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely, CL. Thanks for having me.
A lot of disappointment from the Cardinals losing in overtime at home against Virginia. Yeah. They had a whole off week to think about it. Right. Now they're going down to face number 2 Miami. Where do you think this team is right now, just in terms of picking itself back up to get prepared for this opponent?
I think we're going to find out Friday. I don't necessarily think they have to win. I mean, obviously you want to win, but I think there needs to be some kind of improvement, not as many sacks or not as many negative plays that they talked about, better decision-making, not looking lost or, scrambling as much out there. I honestly think, even though, of course, like they always say, you don't want to sit on a loss, I honestly think it was good for them because they needed to kind of sit in it and say, like, okay.
To get healthy, too.
Exactly. They're definitely not healthy right now with those running backs banged up. Jeff Robb mentioned Isaac and Keywan, no mention of Duke, which kind of lets you know it probably is a little worse. But if you have a player that goes down twice, you know what I mean, 2 weeks in a row, probably want to just kind of let him hang back for a second. So I think right now they're just in a state of trying to figure out what works and how to correct some of those mistakes. On the other side of that, I think it would help if they had a team like, a Boston College or something like that to correct those things against. I mean, they're going against Miami.
Boston College catching strays.
No shade. But you know what I mean? Maybe
a get-right game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And their get-right game is now a Friday night game against the number 2 team in the country. So, it'll be a trial by fire experience, I believe.
Yeah, so I asked Coach Brown in the press conference how much did he think winning at Miami 2 years ago may help this group, even though it's different cast of characters going down this year. But they had never won at Miami, if I'm not mistaken, before 2 years ago. Correct. And this is even a bigger game, kind of, because that Virginia game, they got lost in the national landscape. They would have been ranked had they beat Virginia. Right. This would be 2 undefeated teams coming in had they won that game. But now I think it kind of knocked them off their stride. So just in the bigger picture of staying in the ACC race, I mean, do you see a pathway if they don't win this game?
I don't. I think 2 losses is not going to do it, especially when you have Georgia Tech having the season they are, Virginia not having the season they are, Miami having, that's 3 teams right there, that could potentially win it that have no loss. Well, Virginia, I think, has the one.
Yeah, Virginia lost at NC State.
Yeah. But these are teams that, are right at the top there. Now, if you beat Miami, we're talking about a very different thing. But 2 losses, I think you're just playing for a bowl game at that point after that.
Yeah, a win over Miami opens up all the possibilities of college football playoff and everything is still, ACC championship, everything will still be out there. So I feel like quarterback Miller Moss has taken the brunt of criticism so far this season. Even before conference game played, through the first 3 games in non-conference, I think people felt like he wasn't good enough, essentially. Yeah. And we heard offensive coordinator Brian Brougham use the word resilient when he talked about Miller Moss. How much could this be a big game just for him individually, especially he's had 3 games now where he's thrown pick sixes. Right. I think the one against Virginia was really a bad decision on his part, but how much do you think he needs this game to kind of change the narrative on what his season has been?
Yeah, you talk about resilient. You get benched, 3 with 3 games left in the regular season last year at USC. That does something to you. Then you come to a program like this and you're not having the success that, you maybe want, that could play on you. But getting to Miami and playing in that game, that could be a huge confidence booster if things kind of go right. The thing I think that we forget...
Against an incredible defense, too, Miami has.
Exactly. But the thing I think we forget is one of the reasons why Miller said he came here is because he had never been around such a strong run game before. So everything had to be put on his shoulders. Well, now you're put in a situation where not by anyone's choice or by anyone's decision, he doesn't necessarily have that. So you come into a system where you're thinking that you have, you know, Isaac Brown, Duke Watson, Keywan Brown, and you don't necessarily have them the same kind of way. So now you have to readjust after learning a certain way.
Yeah.
And so I think now with this Miami game, he's had, you know, a couple of games where they've been banged up, unfortunately. So I think, you know, going into this game, it could be a huge confidence boost of saying like, hey, you know, I wasn't expecting to have this much on me coming into this team, but now that I do, here's what I can do with that.
Yeah, and I will leave you out on this question. I think Louisville's defense hasn't gotten the credit it's deserved so far.
Don't even get me started
during this season. Well, here's your chance.
Listen.
So how much could this be a statement for them to have a great game against a Carson Beck who is, you know, he's still in the Heisman conversation. Right. I don't know that he's necessarily a front runner, especially the way Mendoza played for IU, but he's up there, and this Miami offense does have a pretty balanced attack.
Yeah. No, listen, here's the thing. Because I've thought about this a lot over the past, what are we in, week 8, 2 months? You know, last year, people were calling for Ron English's job.
True.
They were talking about he is this horrible coach, and, you know, they got mad at him for saying that there was no alpha, and he basically called them unintelligent, which I didn't necessarily get that fully from what he said. But there was a lot of trash talk against Ron English, who California native, also a California native. Yes. Now, this season, I have still heard people say, oh, the defense did that or whatever, because against Virginia, they had the overtime. Mind you, they only allowed 1 touchdown in regulation.
Yeah.
But because Jamari Taylor had the touchdown in overtime, people want to blame the defense. Mm-hmm. And I have no vested interest. I get my paycheck from Gannett. But it just doesn't sit right with me when people don't recognize how dominant this defense has been this season. Virginia was averaging 500-something yards a game.
Yeah.
They didn't even have 300 against Louisville.
10 points in regulation.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And again, 1 touchdown. If you want to count the special teams field goal, cool. I don't think it's gone recognized enough. And it's so unfortunate because of all of the flack and all the things they had to overcome last year. You've got a very dominant D-line right now. Secondary, in my opinion, has improved. You've got linebackers. Yes, Stan Quan is hurt. But then you've got Caleb, who I didn't even realize it, but just now talked about how he played against Carson Beck when Carson was at Georgia and Caleb was at Tennessee. Yeah. So you've got someone with insight. Of course, it's different, systems, whatever, but he's still the same person. So you have all of this, and it's not, in my opinion, being recognized enough.
Yeah. So I think even the train, I don't know if you could hear that horn with the audio.
That was my clock it moment.
Even the train is hating on you. You know what I mean? Huh?
So I thank you for this. I want to take this opportunity to say that, no, good job to their defense, because had they not been as dominant, we might not be looking at a 4-1 team right now, especially when you consider how many scoring opportunities were left out there. You want to look at the Virginia game again, how many of those scoring opportunities, those touchdowns, were enabled because of a defensive play, a 3 and out, a turnover on downs, an interception, whatever, a sack. So kudos to the defense. Last year, I would not have been saying that, but this year, you got to give honor and credit where it's due, and defense deserves some credit.
Indeed. Well, there you have it. We are going to transition to basketball now, and the interviews I did with Coach Pat Kelsey at the ACC tip-off. And now joining the show, I have University of Louisville coach Pat Kelsey. Pat, thank you for joining me.
CL, thanks, man. Pleasure to be here.
Good. Hey, the roster construction I wanted to jump into, not necessarily the individual players you got, but when you were coming into year 2, what did you view in terms of, I want this amount of shooters, I want this amount of guys who can handle the ball, these amount of rebounders? Like, how did you just kind of go about deciding what's kind of the best makeup in terms of roles?
Yeah, I mean, we have a process. There is a science behind it. the evaluation process in the basketball component and the evaluation process in the intangibles, the things that you can't measure. And we're very intentional about finding those type of guys, digging, doing due diligence to find out about those other things that you can't measure.
Kind of like Moneyball. There's
a little bit of that. And I read that book years ago. And even when we were at Winthrop and Charleston, we started saying, can we find diamonds in the rough based on the things we value and the way we play? And I thought we had a lot of success with that. This group fits. I think we have terrific depth, positional size, talented guys that can score the ball. We got bigs that are versatile and different in many different ways, so we could throw different type of lineups at you. But the biggest thing, because we all know the talent of the players is there, it's the makeup and the commitment to winning in one another that I think makes this team special.
You mentioned that you want defense to be the identity of this team, and obviously last year with Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards, those are two guys. Both of them could have been co-defensive players of the year in the league. Who do you see who might take on that defensive stopper?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even Terrence is a good example. Like, Terrence was a good defender, and he didn't have the reputation of being a bad defender. What was awesome is he started to take that on as part of his identity, and he took pride in it. And everybody talks about, the offensive metrics and that all increased for each of those guys. And Chucky is a very decorated defensive player going in. But I think, Terrence, for instance, really found his footing as a defender, and that became part of his deal, and he took pride in it. But if I was sitting with you last year at Media Day, I didn't know he was that caliber of defender until we got deep into the season. I remember we went into that North Carolina game, and that's when Fat really, really took off. We got guys that are willing defenders, that have good instincts, that have the talent and athleticism, So I'll let you know as the season goes along in terms of who those true stoppers are. But we got a lot of guys that are very good and plus defenders.
Yeah. I went back and looked at some of your teams at Charleston and Winthrop in terms of the expectations going in. And you had multiple teams that were preseason picked to win the leagues. Yeah. Those were leagues that were one bid kind of leagues where the goal was to get in the tournament with a chance to advance. These expectations this year, this is Final Four national championship kind of expectations. How do you kind of trickle it down to the players how to go about handling?
Yeah, we just say, we don't talk about the goal being this many wins, this championship, this Final Four, this national championship. We don't say that. I got this from Jay Wright, and I said this before in an interview. Coming off 2 national championships, and people ask Jay Wright, it's national championship or bust. It's Final Four bust. You've done it 2 years in a row. And he said, no. Our only goal is to strive to be the #1 culture in the country. And I agree with this. He said that's harder to do than a national championship because the standard to be in that 1% is so high. And it's vigilance on a daily, drill by drill, minute by minute basis to try to compete and to work to that standard. It's that focus on that process, and the results will take care of themselves. If you get caught up in what you think we should be, what that person thinks we should be, and what that person thinks of us, you're worrying about the wrong things. My job, and why Josh Hurd pays me the heavy money, is to have all that stuff going on and be great today. Amidst the adversity. It ain't gonna be perfect. There is no team in the country that's gonna go undefeated this year. None. Now there might be, you're gonna hit adversity at some point. How do you deal with that? How do you respond to that? That's the key. If we can have the #1 culture in the country, I feel great about where our results will be.
Who do you look to when you are having one of those slow days where you might not be where you're normal, you're not generating the same? Who kind of gets you going?
Man, I mean, I'm sure as heck not perfect. I'm the farthest thing from it. And I might not have my best and my sharpest day, but it's never going to be where I didn't bring the type of energy that I bring. That's the thing you can take to the bank every single day and twice on Sunday. I mean, I'm perfect every day, but I'm going to bring that We all have strengths and weaknesses. One of my strengths that the Lord blessed me with is an unbelievable amount of energy. So I'm going to bring that. Who gets me going? The Lord. That's where I gain my strength. That's where I gain my perspective. That's where I gain my balance. After that, it's my bride, the best recruit I ever signed. It's Alexis Kelsey. She keeps me in check and don't let me get too high with the highs and lows with the lows.
I have to ask you about your wife. What did she say? You went viral. Off a question I asked at a press conference, you start off, you said your whole premise was that you were blessed and you're in a great position. Yeah. You started off with "my wife is hot."
I didn't start off with it. And Lisa, God bless her, man, she was so great is she's so darn even keel. Like, that fan, those people, like, how are the high and lows with the low? She's like this. And it's huge, right? It's unbelievable for me. And she doesn't love the spotlight, but she's the rock, man. She makes it happen in raising our kids and the caliber of human beings my kids are. And when I said that, she came home that night and she was just looking at me like, why? Why you got to bring me into this? Like, I'm just sitting over here minding my own business and you got to. But my point was, I think you were talking about, man, like you got 42 injuries and you just lost 2 in a row. Like, how do you, what do you mean, how do I? My point was like, you know how blessed I am? The head coach of Louisville, I get to coach these awesome dudes. I get to play in front of 20,000 people. I said, my kids are healthy. My wife's hot. Probably should have left that one out. I believe she is. I know she is. She just didn't want me to bring her into it. So she got more attention than she wanted there. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, I wanted to ask you about Mikael Brown Jr. because he's one of those special players that, you know, I don't know if he's generational necessarily, but you don't get him every year.
Yeah.
So how has the process been right now getting him to totally buy in to what you're trying to do?
Mikael's a joy to coach. We all know he's a world-class player, special gifts and special talents, and he's going to play at the highest level that basketball has for a really, really long time. But what I always talk about is just his makeup. It's his makeup, it's his character, it's his commitment to his teammates. He's special for a kid with that many stars and McDonald's All-American and his draft status and all that stuff. Like, he's a great teammate. He's a joy to coach. He loves hoop as much as anybody I've ever been around. Like, he's the type of guy, and I said this in one of my interviews back there, you gotta try to get him out of the gym sometimes so that it's not diminishing returns, right? Because he just wants to be great. Striving to be great is part of the reason he's where he's at, but finding that balance with him to make sure he knows when to recover and eat and sleep and those type things too is really important. But, you know, special player, and he's got older dudes around him, you know, that have logged 1 million minutes in college basketball that can impart some knowledge on him, on handling the rigors of that, because there's rigors, man. The travel combined with the academics, with the rivalries, the schedule that we're going to play, it's a lot. So it's good to have that mix between a young, ultra-talented guy with a bunch of older veterans.
Yeah, getting the signal to wrap, I'll leave it on this. The schedule that you put together, the non-conference schedule that you put together, are you crazy?
I know. I think I'd sit up there. We open with the Lakers and we have the Celtics, and then we go to the Knicks, and I think then we go to the West Coast and we got to play the Lakers. So I'll let you know at the end of the season, but it'd be a great challenge.
Indeed. Thank you for joining me, Coach. Good luck this season.
Thanks, Dale. Appreciate you.
Now I'd like to welcome to the show J'Vonne Hadley.
Appreciate you.
J'Vonne, I don't know whether to call you guard or forward, you know, for the University of Louisville, but let's start there because last year you kind of played out of position a lot, playing a power forward.
Yeah.
With the amount of depth this team has this year, where will you see yourself fitting in?
Wherever coach sees me, like wherever coach wants me to be out there on that court, whatever, you know, the number is, the position, we don't really go by that a lot, but like wherever he wants me on that court, I can go out there and accomplish. But I feel like, you know, I've been playing a lot of the 3. I've been playing a lot of the 4, like that 3-4 right in there, that shooting guard, small forward type of a role.
So did you expect to come back for another year, like at this time last year when we talked?
No, I was not at all. And like 0%, like I thought it was my last year. I thought I was done after this. I, you know, tried to give it my all, you know, one of the last year, like hoorahs type of thing. But then, the junior college thing came out, and I was blessed to have another year. And it was kind of a bit of a process. After the season, decompressing from that season that we had. Our bodies were banged up a lot, so we're going through that, and then just deciding what's best for my family and best for myself. Like, do I try to go to the NBA draft and get feedback and learn about where I stand with other people, or do I go back to college and take that route? And I decided to go back. It was the best for my family to come back to Louisville. It was best for myself. Got the feedback that I needed from the NBA, and they want my 3-point rate up. They want me to shoot more threes. They want me to prove that I can shoot at a good percentage, but they want to see it more, like more threes.
Yeah.
So,
how do you kind of mesh that with what Coach Kelsey wants you to do and what might be right for the team in that situation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a balance to it.
Right, and I talked to Coach Kelsey a lot about what exactly that looks like, and as a Louisville team, we shoot a lot of threes. So I can't find a better program that's better for my situation than what it is right now. It doesn't change the fact that I'm still gonna be that dog down low. I'm still gonna post people up. I'm still gonna be the rebounder, the dive on loose balls. It's just like looking for my shot a little bit more. Obviously in the right timing, the right play. I've had a couple more plays that drawn up for me, like on the arc and stuff like that now. So it's just like trusting in the staff and trusting my ability. I've never been the selfish type to go out there and jack three. So like I don't think anybody's worried about that. So just finding my role and finding my right where I fit in right there.
Now, what is it like for you being like not only a veteran because you've played a lot of years, but
Right.
you're a returner
Right.
at Louisville, and this being a new staff and everything, and the influx of new players coming in. So now they're looking at you like as a leader. What is that like?
I mean, it's cool. Like a lot of guys like talk to me, ask me questions about like certain plays that we ran last year, and we're changing things up slightly, but like we still have the same mentality. Like we still have a lot of the like same stuff that we do like in practice, like our drills and our workouts and stuff like that. So they they talk to me a lot. They ask me questions. It feels good. Like it feels good that like people turn to me and people trust me, and that's all it's really about. Like I don't want to be that leader that guys don't really like, and he's a mean guy and the bad guy all the time, and he's his coach's favorite and this and that. Like that's not me. Like I'm honestly just trying to go out there and win, just like the rest of you guys, and you can trust me with whatever. So I try to be that guy for them, not that big bad wolf leader type of a guy.
Yeah. So when you first, obviously, Mikael Brown comes in with a lot. Mikael Brown Jr. I got to say
Yes,
the
sir.
Jr.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
He came in with a lot of hype and a lot of accolades. I almost don't even want to say hype because that makes it seem like he's not living up to it. But what were your first impressions when you actually got on the court and played alongside?
Yeah, I mean he's elite. Like he's outperforming the freshman typical role. Like his IQ is higher than I've seen most freshmen, and that's not easy to say at all because I've seen some good freshmen, but Mikael is really up there. Like his like you said, the hype thing doesn't really suit him. Every time I've talked about him here today, like every time I say hype around Mikael, I say he's earned it. Like he's earned that hype, and he's earned the role that he's in. He's earned all the stuff around him because it's his family and himself. Like they love the game of basketball, and they're always in the gym. Like if you came to a practice, like his family's in there. Like they love basketball, and I know he's in there, working every single time that one of us is in there. He's in there as well. So like you don't see that in a freshman usually. So
also speaking of hype, the team itself has got a lot of love this summer. When the roster was finally done. A lot of the projections, definitely top 5, most top 3. I wouldn't be surprised if you get in first place votes when the actual preseason polls come out. How do you guys handle being in that position? Because it's I'd have to look down the roster again, but I don't think anybody has ever played on a number 1 ranked team that'll be on this roster. So, or even a top 5 ranked team. Yeah. How do you guys handle kind of the quote unquote noise that comes with that? I
would just say blocking it out in a sense to the best of your abilities. Honestly, like there's gonna be a lot of DMs on social media and a lot of just that type of a noise that like a college athlete typically deals with, and especially being at Louisville, like we're gonna get a lot more of those, like just because of like our rich history and people, expectations are here, and it's Louisville. Like people talk about Louisville all the time, and then it's the noise about like I said, the fan base outside of it, like different fan bases coming in and out, like you said, the projections, the expectations, and it's just blocking all that out and just trying to worry about ourselves. It's not easy to do. But like, if we can do that, we'll accomplish whatever. Like, we just got to worry about ourselves, worry about the next practice, worry about, just handling our business day by day, and it'll take care of itself.
How excited are you about the schedule, especially non-conference that Coach Kelsey put together? And even with the exhibition playing Kansas, it doesn't count, but you're still measuring against an equal as opposed to, playing a team of much lesser talent.
Right. I mean, it's everything that you dream of as a kid. Like, when you look at the schedule and you look at all those big names and especially all the big venues that you're going to, like, when you're a kid, you used to watch it on TV, and now you get to live it and play in those gyms and play against those teams with those big names and brands. And, it's something that, like, it's like 1%, or I don't know what the percentage is. Like, not too many people get to do that. And, like, we just have to, like, all take a step back sometimes and realize that, like, it's a blessing to do that, and it's a blessing to be in that role, because, like, there's not much else you can do besides just, work your butt off every single day.
Yeah. I want to rewind. I actually forgot to ask you this when you mentioned it, but the case that basically gave junior college players eligibility, another year of eligibility, was that something that you knew was in the works and you were following closely, or were you just, once the result came out, it was like, oh, good, thank you.
It was kind of more of that second thing. Like, I wasn't really following that much because we were in the season, so I was just trying to worry about, like, what can I do for the team and the season wise and stuff like that. I had some people talk to me about it, like, just briefly, like, hey, like, you might end up getting another year and stuff like that. But I try not to worry about that stuff too much, especially in the season. But, like, afterwards, I was kind of like, hey, thank you very much. Like, I much appreciate it. I feel like it was well earned, well deserved, and junior college kids deserve the love too.
Yeah, and I'll leave it out on this last question. Obviously, we saw you play last year. What can fans expect from you different this season?
I would just say,
is it the threes?
I would say the threes probably. I mean, differently, it's not much different. That I'm going to go out there, still be that dog, still rebound, still dive on loose balls, still try to be that energy guy. But like we talked about, probably shoot a little bit more threes, being able to prove that I can shoot as, with the best of them. In practice, we do shooting competitions all the time, so I'm right up there with, the best of them. So, like, I can shoot the ball. It's just a confidence level. That's really all it is. And, yeah.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining the show,
sir.
J'Vonne,
thank you very much.
Good luck to you this
season. Thank you. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate you, sir.
And now it's time for Pickup Lines, where I try to predict college football games this coming weekend based on the spread. Let's start with the marquee game of our interest. Louisville is a 13.5-point underdog at Miami. Miami's playing well. We've seen that all year, but I also don't think they're a team. If you look at some of these games that they've won and covered, they're doing it late in the game, with the exception of Florida State, where they got up big early, and then Florida State kind of came back and padded the score. But I don't think that happens to Louisville. I think the Cardinals will go down swinging. I do expect Miami to win this game, but I think it's going to be a tight game. And I will take Louisville and the 13.5 points. Right down the road in Lexington, UK, Kentucky welcomes Texas, and they are a 11.5-point underdog at home. I always like going with home dogs for the most part. Texas is coming off of this big win at Oklahoma, feeling good, feeling like it's getting its stride back. Kentucky was off last week, so they're going to have a little bit more rest coming into this game, and I think it helps them. I still think Kentucky's defense is going to play well enough to keep them in this game, keep it from getting away early. But we're also seeing maybe that Oklahoma game for Texas is what Arch Manning needed as a quarterback to get some more confidence, and we'll see how it goes for him. But I'm still not big on Texas, especially not on the road, so I'm going with the home dogs. UK, give me those 11.5 points. We're going to stay in the SEC. Alabama is an 8.5-point favorite against Tennessee. Bama seems to also really be hitting its stride with big wins against Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago, and then last week at Missouri, pulling it out. Tennessee, I believe, was off last week. It should be a tight game, I would expect, and I almost want to take Tennessee, but I've been on Alabama for the last few weeks. They haven't done me wrong. So roll Tide, lay the points. Next, we have Georgia, a 7-point favorite against Ole Miss. Ole Miss has kind of been living dangerously. They eke out a win against Washington State, which wasn't a great team coming into Oxford last week. And I don't take too much from that game because I'm sure it was a look ahead spot where where Lane Kiffin was thinking more about Alabama and saving something for the Crimson Tide. Lane Kiffin was thinking about Georgia, saving some of his stuff for Georgia in this game. And Georgia hasn't been all that impressive, to be honest, so far this season. They had to rally to come back at Auburn. And if it wasn't for controversial fumble at the goal line that would have put Auburn up 17-0, maybe that game goes a different way. But we don't deal in ifs. Georgia came back and won that game. But I think 7 points against Ole Miss at home, I think Lane Kiffin has something for them. So I'm going to take the Road Dogs. I'll take the 7 points and Ole Miss. And lastly, we have Vanderbilt as a 2.5-point favorite against LSU at home. This is a tricky game. I don't feel like LSU has really played that well either. This season, I think they're having a lot of offensive problems. But Vanderbilt has just been a resilient team, a tough team, probably shedding the reputation of Vanderbilt as a program has traditionally been for the last, I don't know, forever really. So I'm going to stick with Diego Pavia at quarterback and those Vanderbilt Commodores to cover the 2.5 and send LSU and Brian Kelly back home to Baton Rouge reeling. So that will do it for Pickup Lines. That'll do it for another episode of the CL Brown Show. Thank you for tuning in. Please click on those follow buttons to subscribe to the podcast. Please leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, please also subscribe to our YouTube page. If not, you can always catch my columns at courier-journal.com or just wait till next Wednesday when a new episode of the podcast drops. We'll be dropping more from ACC tip-off, getting more and more into basketball. I will also have interviews from the SEC Media Day, which is coming up this week too. Hopefully next week we will have Mark Pope, head coach of the University of Kentucky, with me for an interview. Thank you again for tuning in.